Hi there crafters, it's Louise with you today. Welcome along and thanks for checking out this 3 old, 3 new video. I'm starting with an old sheet of Vicky Bouton background paper, some washi tape and my watercolor palette. Off camera, I have pre-prepped my background paper with some clear gesso. I've got some Charms Creations, these wood flower pieces, and another version of a text washi tape. So it's a slightly different type. I wouldn't actually call it washi tape, I'd more call it a sticker tape. So it is clear, but it does have text printed on it. And I get a little bit caught up in this particular layout and almost forget to actually add that item. And you know what, there's no rules. This is my series. I can do as I please with it. So if I had forgotten, it wouldn't have necessarily mattered. But at the moment, I'm on this sort of stash busting kind of trek, and I want to make sure that if I've pulled something from my stash, I'm at least using it in some partial form on this layout. Now you can see that I have actually pulled a little kit full of goodies off to the side, and this is a previous Kitaholic kit. So once I've sort of created with them throughout the month, I will generally put most of the elements back into the pack and pop it on my shelf. I like to sometimes keep them together so I can sort of see what was in that month's kit, pull pieces from it as I need to. But another reason is that it is all pre-coordinated for me, so I don't necessarily have that sort of thought process where I have to try and think about what's going to go onto the page. It's all ready and works together, so I can create much quicker. So that's part of my process, and you can see that I've pulled a few little embellishments. I've mounted my photo. This is one of my new products, is the Charms Creation, which is a fabulous Australian small business. So if you haven't checked out Charms Creations, definitely have a look at those because they're so fun and cute to add these little embellishments onto your layouts. Now, because I am using the watercolors in the background, that's why I have pre-prepped with clear gesso. So gesso makes your page have this kind of tackiness, and what it does is it's like a barrier between the paper and whatever you're going to add to it. So in this case, I'm going to add lots of water because I'm using the watercolors, and I don't want it to soak in and either damage my page or lose any of the color intensity. Now, clear gesso is good because it still lets you see the pattern of the background paper that you're using. So if you wanted to, say, mute a really busy paper, you could background with white gesso, and that would just take a little bit of intensity out of the paper. So because this is a fairly sort of plain or straightforward background paper, it wasn't too busy. I knew that I didn't need white gesso. It was quite fine to use clear gesso. I wanted some of it to actually be seen in that background. Now, when I use my watercolor, I firstly spray the palette. So wet the actual palette, my spray bottle, and wet the palette. And then I use a really wet brush and just spread some color around. So you can see that I'm using sort of a combination of the teals and the blues. This is sort of one of my favorite ones to use for boys, and I want to actually kind of blend them in so I get some different tonal elements of the color. Now, watercolor is lots of fun because if you're not loving the depth of shade that you're using, you can actually just either add more pigment, so more of the color, or you can add more water just to mute it down a little bit. So I'm really just building a background here using the different combinations of the colors. I think it's actually a mix of 3. There's like a teal, a more greeny kind of aqua, and then that blue color as well. And I just wanted to build this watercolor background and then add lots of splatter over the top. So another reason that I chose this is because of those floral wood pieces. So I bought these are one of my new items. I bought these floral wood chip pieces because I thought they were pretty, and not actually thinking, how am I going to use these? How are they going to feature on a page? So didn't really think that through. But essentially by leaving them quite raw, in that I'm not painting them, I'm not backing them, I'm not putting anything behind them, it lets that watercolor background come through. So if I had just put them straight onto that background paper, they would have gotten really lost. But I want them to be a feature so that you can sort of see they add texture. They're another sort of little cluster element, and that's going to give them something to help them stand out, is just having that little bit of watercolor behind them. All right, so mostly you'll notice I'm using tacky glue. That tends to be sort of my go-to in terms of sticking. Here is this sort of text sticky tape that I had thought I was finished with this layout, and then kind of went, oh crap, I haven't used those elements, haven't used those washi tapes, and it did not like to stick. Let me tell you, it did not, well, like to stick to itself. As you can see, I'm having a little bit of trouble here, and think yourself lucky that you can't hear me swearing off camera, because there was quite a few expletives. But essentially I had to pop some tacky glue because I had used gesso on my background and then covered it with watercolor. It really did mean that trying to stick anything to that was just not going to work unless you added lots of glue. So just using some tacky glue, gluing everything down. I still got that one washi tape, which is my stash busting one, and this is more of a true washi tape, so it's a bit more tearable, where the other one is not really, you sort of have to cut it. It's more of a sticker, as I mentioned. So I'm just going to tear a couple of little strips of this washi tape and tuck them into the elements, and this is more of an afterthought, so not necessarily something that I planned as such, but getting it in there. And I do like how it looks. It almost looks like I've stamped that little bit of text on there as well. So that's my 3 old and 3 new share for today. I hope that you have enjoyed that video. Thank you so much for watching and for any comments that you leave.